Welcome to our cross-border careers talk. Screencraft Works is an international community for cross-border networking, talks and mentoring, supporting underrepresented production and post-production talent in film and TV. My name is Rebecca Del Tufo. My pronouns are she, her. And for anyone who needs a visual description, I'm a middle-aged white woman with short pink hair and a white top with owls on. Thank you to Sarah Putt Associates for supporting this series of talks, and welcome to Hannah Beaugeard, producer and director and a bullying and harassment officer at BECTU, who is going to talk to us today about how to manage difficult conversations at work. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. My pronouns are she, her, and for anyone who would like a visual description, I am a Caucasian female with brunette hair wearing very thick kind of glasses today. Okay, so it's quite a broad subject matter, and I'll be approaching this presentation from my own experience in British broadcasting and filming, often with tentative subject matters. I just want to prefix this presentation saying that I have never worked for an HR sector. However, I am passionate about preventing bullying and harassment in the workplace, fair working conditions, and empathy in narrative or storytelling, which personally I think can be applicable to all jobs within the TV and film industry. Today, we're going to discuss a range of ways to tackle difficult subject matters with colleagues and on-screen contributors, look at empathetic and inclusive ways to conduct discussions, including the giving and receiving of constructive feedback in working and mentoring relationships, but also how awareness of other perceptions can create a healthier production environment. And I'll get more into that a little bit later. My name is Hannah. I've been in the industry for about 13 odd years now, gosh. So what happens is that I started off as a runner and then I went on to development, which for those who don't know, development is a sector and a kind of terminology that we use in the United Kingdom here to basically say, come up with ideas for TV shows. I did that mainly in shiny floor entertainment game shows, went on to producing game shows, and then I went on to become a commissioner and development executive, head of acquisitions and head of development and production for a small UK broadcaster. We then, I helped create something called the Diverse Film Fund, which then won our first BAFTA, and very, very happy to say that we got nominated this year again in the same category in short form online documentary. So that's my background. It's usually coming from an entertainment but also from a documentary sphere. So coming from a place of that, some of you it may not be attributed, some of you may be interested in scripted, some of you may be coming from a technical side. Some of the information may not be specific to everyone, for example the examples, depending on the career or genre, but most of it can be applicable to responsible and respectful interactions in all productions across any genre. There are two things that I really wanted to start this presentation with. One of them is check your ego at the door because it's not about you. This may sound quite abrupt, but I genuinely think that it's something that I know in the past myself, I've taken constructive or feedback in general very personally. And that's something that if you take away anything from today, that you don't do the same as I. Feedback is a joint venture of problem solving. It is not a monologue. Feedback shouldn't be felt that you are just being spoken to. It should be a kind of fluid conversation about how we can problem solve something. I once saw a TED Talk survey from a few years ago now that said feedback given, kind of people only see it as 26% effective. That to me is abysmal. So let's try and solve that. When giving feedback, there are usually two tropes that people often fall into. Either they're too soft, too generalized, like a fluffy bunny, as it were, so that we don't even recognize that feedback is taking place or leaving us in a state of confusion. The other strain is being too direct. Grumpy man reflects this. This makes the receiver feel defensive or begins to retreat. Then the person giving the feedback begins to get disgruntled and we start giving justifications, the ums and the ahs come in, and then the whole interaction goes south really fast. So the question is, how can we give good feedback? Well, I've read up on the subject, not only for today, but also I'm a line manager myself. And I tend to use the following 3 things, which in my experience has made my feedback a whole lot easier and better experience for everyone involved. So often we tend to internalize constructive feedback as a personal attack, all this hard work we've done and the hours poured into presentations, for example, and then someone either picks it apart or worse, a flat out no with little to no feedback as to why or how it could be constructed as better. Great feedback always starts with a question. It's a short question that is important. It lets the recipient of the feedback know that the feedback is coming. There's actually a part of our brain called the amygdala, which is constantly scanning for social cues. By giving the receiver's brain a social cue, it immediately allows for the receiver to have a choice. I can say yes or no to the question. I'm not on the spot, I'm not backed into a corner, and I have the feeling of autonomy. It's such a small thing to do that can make the world of difference having a constructive conversation. So examples can be as easy as, do you have 5 minutes to chat about that last scene we shot? Or I've had some ideas on how we can improve this scene. Do you have 5 seconds to chat about it? Just that small interaction or introduction to the brain can somehow hold space for the feedback. People who give good feedback always wrap up with a question as well. This creates a sense of engagement and collaboration rather than just compliance. What do you think? Well, this is what I think we should do. What would you do? Especially in the creative industry, in any creative industry, art, however you would like to frame it. Art is created through contribution, not compliance. By ending on a question, it makes the feedback a problem-solving conversation and not, like in this case, a one-woman show. No soft wording. What do I mean by that? I mean, use data, say specifics of what you saw, heard, and cut out what I call soft words. There's this term used in corporate, which I think is great, and also to apply to creative industry, and it's called soft wording. Soft wording can mean different things, different people. Instead of using soft wording like you need to be more proactive, well, how is that specific? What data do I have? Maybe say, we needed the contributor release forms back by Monday and it's now Friday. Can you help me understand why there's been a delay here? If we use soft wording, even with positive feedback, the receiver won't understand what either to continue or stop doing for that behavior. Consequences. Oh, God, it's such a hard term. Consequences is a harsh term to basically say how something has had or will have an impact on you. Like, I really like how you pitched this series and it helped me grasp the concept quickly and effectively, or maybe the slightly more constructive sense, because we weren't able to get the contributor release forms back in time, we weren't able to include this participant in the edit. It gives the receiver a sense of purpose and logic to the link between the points that you're trying to get across, which is something that the brain really craves. The brain is always craving data. Don't use soft words, use data and consequences. Okay, so this is just a very quick wrap-up slide. So it starts on a question, data only, no soft wording, what are the consequences, and then end on the question. Great, so now we're going to give feedback in an example that could happen with a member of your team as a producer. I'm using this as an example because I think I've been through things very similar to this, which is a great example in real life. But it's also so easy to happen in really short turnarounds with TV or film, or even any deadline. Imagine you've just been promoted. Congratulations, everyone. You are now a producer on a major new BBC documentary series with contributors who have been through domestic violence. As per the regulations, requirements from the broadcaster, as a producer, you are ultimately responsible for all participants to undergo mandatory psychological evaluations. However, due to production tight deadlines and a demanding work schedule, a researcher presumed that a B character in an episode wouldn't need an evaluation due to their involvement in the episode being not as prominent as the A character. It is only after transmission of that episode that a production coordinator realizes that the participant hasn't had an evaluation. You hurriedly try and get an evaluation from the contributor, but they've gone quiet and aren't returning your calls. The researcher needs to be told what has happened, how their actions have consequences, and problem solve together in order for the participant to take the evaluation. Authentic authorship. I could go on for hours about this subject matter. Authentic authorship is integral to responsible content creation, whether it be for film, music, television, or online content, which is what I'm creating now. It is your responsibility, whether it's scripted or factual or even music. I know that some people watching this may be composers, to come from a place of authenticity and empathy for all contributors. Not only is it responsible for us as creatives to make space for underrepresented communities, both in front and behind the camera, but often it can open doors for opportunity, new information, which we may not have been privy to, which we can actually put into our creative output. Even if you do not necessarily agree with the lifestyle, the past experiences, or the subject matter that you're working with, in order for an audience to resonate with a character, fiction or non, they have to be able to see the humanity in that person and have empathy for that person. In factual entertainment, it is your moral obligation to state facts and for the audience to make their own evaluation on what their truth is. In fact, in the UK, if we're seen to produce a documentary that is too far opinionated in one direction, we could be fined. The best way to get empathy from a person is to give it to them first. You may be interviewing a murderer. I know I've done that several times in my career, but I always try and find that human aspect to them, for them to trust me in order to get that personal narrative from them to help me piece together a narrative. Here's some tips on working with contributors on difficult subject matters. Now, these are very top line things. The first one is always listen to your gut. Red flags. If you're having a conversation with somebody and you do it via video call, are they shifty? Do they not like being on webcam interviews? Are they cagey about getting psychological evaluations, for example, or disclosing personal information like their address or legal name? This is all stuff that you should really be thinking about. If they're not willing to say this in the point where we're doing research, what are they going to be like in front of the camera? Conduct all first interviews over video, but always remember to ask for the permission to film the interview. Now, not everybody does this. This is just personally as a documentary filmmaker what I do. I always like to have first interviews over video. I think it's a lot more personable. And in order for me to be able to get that human aspect of them, they need to see that I'm actively interested in them as a human being. Eye contact is a huge thing. Seeing my expressions, seeing me nod, maintaining kind of active listening. It's all really, really important. In the UK, I'm unsure of international law about this, but definitely in the UK, you must let someone know that they're being recorded. And what I usually do is I specifically designate it as they are being recorded for internal research purposes only. If you're going to say that, you've got to mean it. As in, I don't want to see in the edit kind of 8 to 12 weeks down the line that a really kind of overexcited researcher has popped in an excerpt of a webcam interview, because then that's broken that trust between me as a producer and them as the contributor. Also, there are other aspects that can really help to it. For example, on Google, when you record a video, there's also an option for a transcription, but I'm sure there's kind of other software that's available. It's also good practice for them to be able to interact with an interviewer. So you'll be able to see what they're like on camera. Ask if they're involved in any form of exclusivity or if they have any prior or unspent criminal records. If they do have a criminal record, make sure that you send them a personal disclosure form. Now, this is just very basic information about what they've been convicted of, when they were convicted, or if they have any unspent convictions. This is going to really help you not only safeguard you and your team, but also potentially prevent any mishaps for unspent criminal convictions. Sometimes in kind of like the legal matters of media, if somebody still has an unspent conviction, we aren't able to broadcast them on television. So it's really good to understand that first and foremost. Don't underestimate someone's mental health. Always offer more resources that you have available, breaks, and space for the person. When I say space for the person, as in, I mean, give them time to breathe, away from you, away from the camera, away from the crew. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we can't always see what's happening to somebody beneath the surface. So always, always go above and beyond and just say, how are you doing? Do you need some water? Do you need a coffee? Do you need 5 minutes? How are you feeling mentally today? Give them a call before you go and meet with them, kind of a couple of days beforehand. How are you feeling about the shoot? We're really excited to be filming with you. Always see it as a positive aspect. Do they have a good circle of friends and family around them? What you could be filming with these people could be a really difficult subject matter. Always make sure that when you say goodbye and you close the door, that they have people confidentially and that they hold sacred to them that they can contact should they need to. Always protect you and your crew above anything else. This is so important. And unfortunately, early in my career, this wasn't made available to me. So if you go away from anything today, I really, really wish that you go away with this. So always protect you and your crew above anything else. If the situation looks dangerous and you don't have a potential solution for the problem, don't react immediately, always refer up. I mean, if you are the producer, always go to your exec. This person wants me to go around their house to film. I'm not too sure if I should. What do you think we should do? If you are that top bar, then refer sideways. Ask other execs what they would do. Don't react in that moment. Always take the time out if you're unsure. Never give your personal information to a contributor, especially where you live. This could be kind of dangerous to you, your loved ones, and your friends and family around them. I once had a contributor keep on posting me love letters through the door just because I accidentally left my address on a package. Please, please be careful. Don't make my mistakes. Don't add them on personal social media accounts. I have multiple LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram accounts for sourcing contributors, and I always now try and make sure that my production crew do the same. I'm going to go into kind of bullying and harassment now. Now, I'm going to warn everybody, some of this may be triggering, so if you would like to log off. So it is everyone's responsibility to produce in production to create a safe, respectful workplace where everyone is able to contribute to the creative effort to the best of their abilities. What is seen as being bullying, what can it be? Well, the BFI, which stands for British Film Institute, have a brilliant bullying, harassment and racism prevention scheme, which I've actually pulled directly from this to put in the presentation today. I've also linked the original link here. I strongly suggest that you go back and then have a little read about it. The next slide is very similar. It's examples of bullying and harassment. The following is by no means an exhaustive list, but it can be used to highlight the range of unwanted conduct or inappropriate behaviour. And if you're anything like me, unfortunately, I have experienced a lot of the stuff that is on that list there. Things are getting better, but they are nowhere near being eradicated. And once poor practice is identified and called out, only then can it be addressed. The next thing, which I think is really important, employers, especially in the UK, I'm unsure of international law, employers may also be liable for discrimination or harassment by their employers or workers in the course of employment, unless they can show that they've taken reasonable steps to prevent discrimination, bullying or harassment from taking place or doing anything out of that description. Often, one may be convinced that what they are experiencing isn't bullying, it's just a joke or just their way, or worse, it's just the culture here. This is an excuse for poor behaviour, and they are usually happening to people before and potentially, unfortunately, after you've left the company or production. Always listen to your gut and have conviction in it. If it looks like a turd, feels like a turd, and smells like a turd, it's usually a turd. Giving and receiving constructive feedback, mentoring and relationships. What can you get out of this process? So gain knowledge in areas that you may not have access to right now in your careers. For example, I know that with my mentee, I was able to send her over some examples of previous scripts that I've done just because she wasn't aware of the formatting and things like that, or helping someone to create an edit schedule, things like that. expanding your network. It's a great way of doing that. Always, always ask the dumb questions. Never be afraid to be the stupid person in the room. This is a chance for you to get as much from your mentor as possible. So if you feel as though you aren't getting the feedback that you need from your mentor, and it could be for various reasons, it's up to you to be proactive and ask the team here to be reassigned. No one is going to take it as a personal insult. All that any mentor wants is that for the person to thrive. And if it isn't with me, then I should want it to be with somebody else. Helping you set your goals, mainly on being a sounding board and suggesting potential new ways of either problem solving or avenues to go down. I think this is brilliant. Actually, I've never seen it before, and I think I'll definitely be using it moving forward. So coming up with your goal must be specific and positively wording. This sets out the agenda and the focus. Again, it kind of helps us with that data feedback, yeah? Sets us up with kind of being focused. Reality, what is the context? Keep it short, don't get stuck in the past. Options, brainstorm, lots of ideas, creativity. Kind of like refer back to your goals regularly. Say, because I want to be able to produce this 20-minute film in 6 months, I will need to do X, Y, and Z. And of course, will ensure that the actions are specific, realistic, and manageable. We all want to win an Oscar, but let's try and like break that down a little bit first. Let's try and think of the film that we're going to be able to win that Oscar with, yeah? I'd love your feedback. Don't wait for kind of like push feedback, be proactive, get pull feedback. American studies from a few years ago showed that people who are more successful in business, they often don't wait for feedback to be given to you. They often ask for it. It's called pulling feedback. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Hannah. That's been so interesting, so informative on behalf of us all to reflect more on how we give good feedback and how we receive good feedback and how to take it forward. So huge thanks from all of us.